Hi, my name is Mike Jones. I'm the product manager for Agari DMARC protection. Recently, Google and Yahoo announced upcoming changes that will require the adherence to some email best practices in order to deliver bulk email to their users' mailboxes. Some of these new changes involve requirements they will enforce around email authentication. Today, I'll go through some tips on using DMARC protection to identify possible issues with your email authentication, which might lead to deliverability problems at Google and Yahoo. But before we jump into DMARC protection, let me show you how to find details about what Google has published in their requirements. So if you search for email sender guidelines, Google email sender guidelines, you'll come to this page. There's a lot of really great detail here, and they keep an updated FAQ page as well that you can check back and see if there's any updates. But they segment their requirements into two levels: requirements for all senders and requirements for those sending 5,000 or more messages a day. So that's what the bulk mail requirements are. I'm going to concentrate on the bulk mail requirements because they encompass the all sender requirements, and most of our DMARC protection customers, you're going to be mostly concerned with the bulk sending requirements. So the 5,000 message per day threshold at Google, they've stated that this is not a hard limit. It's a guideline. So if you're looking at your domain volume and some days you send 5,000, some days you don't, or you're close to that every day, then you should consider yourself a bulk sender and can just assume that you're likely going to fall under the bulk sending requirements at Google. So first, let's focus on the email authentication requirements. You must set up SPF and DKIM email authentication for your domain. Now, of course, if you're using DMARC protection today, that's something we already recommend, and that's why you're using the product. But you're going to want to check and make sure that you have both of the SPF and DKIM set up for your domains. In addition to that, you must have a DMARC record for your domain. Your DMARC record can be set to P equals none. It does not have to be an enforcement policy on that record, but you must have a DMARC record. And thirdly, either SPF or DKIM, one of the two, must pass the DMARC alignment requirement. When you publish a DMARC record, it's not good enough to just pass SPF or just pass DKIM. You must also make sure your SPF domain or your DKIM domain is aligned to the from header domain in order to pass DMARC. And Google is also making that a requirement to deliver that mail. So in summary, you must have SPF and DKIM. One of the two must align with the from header domain per DMARC, and you must have a DMARC record. So those are the main email authentication related requirements that Google is implementing. So now let's switch over to the DMARC protection product and go into how you can identify places where you might have issues and some ideas on how to follow through on those. So once you're logged into DMARC protection, I like to use the domain diagnostics page as the starting point for this. So I'm going to navigate down here to diagnostics domains. I like this page because it's a really good summary of all of your domain, all of the domains that you have registered in the product that we're receiving your DMARC data for and processing it for you. It's a really good summary page to get a high level view of what's happening with those domains. So quickly looking, you can see the domain name. You can expand this to see all of the different senders for that domain. You can see how much of the traffic that we've observed from that domain is from your approved senders, how much is from unapproved senders, what is the overall DMARC pass rate, what is your DMARC record and policy, what's your SPF record, what is your SPF pass rate. This is an aligned SPF pass rate that we're showing on this page, so meaning it's passing the SPF specification and the SPF domain is aligned with the from header domain per DMARC. You can see some DKIM key information and DKIM pass information. Again, this is a DKIM aligned pass rate where the DKIM signature passes and the DKIM signing domain is aligned with the from header domain. So that's what these numbers are in this table. So if I'm going to come here and try to understand which of my domains are in compliance and which ones have problems, I'm probably going to want to look at the volume of approved sender traffic first. So I'm going to sort this to see my highest volume domains at the top. So my highest volume domain is offers.sashimibank.com. I see almost 31 million messages in this view covers 2 weeks of traffic right now. So 31 million messages in 2 weeks. Pretty easy to see that this is a bulk sending domain. I I don't, there's not much question that this is going to fall under the bulk sending requirements at Google. The pass rate of DMARC is 100% from this domain, so that's pretty good. I have a DMARC record, the reject policy, so that's even better. Not a requirement from Google, but I have it. I have an SPF record. My aligned SPF pass rate is 100%. My aligned DKIM pass rate is 100%. I have no problems with this domain. Like, this domain and the traffic from this domain is going to be just fine. So I will move on and look at a different domain. So let's go look at the next domain down my list. My next highest volume of domain is pwm.sashimibank.com. I have 15 million messages for that one, 100% DMARC pass rate, so that's a good sign. I have a DMARC record. It's inherited from the parent domain, but that's okay for DMARC. I have an SPF record. My aligned SPF pass rate is 0%, so that's something I'm probably going to want to look further into. But my aligned DKIM pass rate is 100%. So at least one of the two is passing with alignment, so that's good. But I do want to understand why my SPF aligned pass rate is 0%, because I do have an SPF record. So we can click on this number and drill into that and to get a better understanding of the 0% aligned SPF pass rate. So it looks like the main problem I'm having here with SPF passing is identifier misalignment. So it's not that I don't have an SPF record. A small amount of traffic doesn't have an SPF record. A small amount is failing SPF, but mostly I have misaligned traffic. And if I look down here, I can see which servers are sending the bulk of the traffic for this domain. And this looks like servers from Marketo. So I'm sending a lot of email from Marketo for this domain. Most of my email is not passing with identifier alignment, but it is passing SPF, which is good. So it means from a Google point of view, this traffic is probably okay. But if I drill into one of these to try to understand better the identifier misalignment, I'll see it's using a Marketo domain in the mail from, which is the SPF domain, but it's using my Sashimi Bank domain, which is why the alignment isn't passing. I can go back to my domain diagnostics view. I can expand this PWM domain and see if what other senders there are. I can see almost all of this approved traffic is coming from Marketo. So really that is the only one that I have to be concerned about. I don't really have to be concerned about the unapproved traffic. That's usually either spoof traffic or traffic that's being forwarded. So I can't do anything about that anyways as far as authentication. And it is passing DKIM. So the DKIM signature is surviving in most of these probably forwarding cases. But for Marketo, I probably do want to understand a little more about how to make this traffic align. Even though this is going to pass the Google standard, it's a best practice for bulk email to pass both SPF with alignment and DKIM with alignment. So I can go to my senders page. I can drill into Marketo and understand a little bit more about what we have for the sender profile for Marketo. I can see here at a high level, SPF alignment is possible, DKIM alignment is possible. So there must be something I can do to make SPF alignment pass. So if I drill into that, I can see some information for SPF. Marketo supports aligned SPF provided that you use their dedicated IP option. And I could see from my other view that I am not using a dedicated IP because I had multiple IP addresses sending my Marketo mail traffic. So I am not using a dedicated IP. So I would need to follow Marketo's documentation. And the note here says that their support documentation for SPF and DKIM is available only when you're logged in, and support tickets must be opened by a named support contract. So I might need to know who in my company owns that Marketo relationship if it's not me, so that I can get logged into their support portal, get my dedicated IP set up, open the necessary support tickets. So if I want to know that, it's possible that if I've captured this data in the past, I might have that logged in my domain information. So I'll go back to the domain diagnostics page. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to drill into the PWM Sashimi Bank. I'm going to see, I do have some notes here. So fortunately, I did capture some notes when I initially set this domain up. I said, Tim Smith in personal wealth management for any authentication or delivery issues related to third-party senders on this domain. So I know who I need to go talk to. Tim Smith is probably the person who has the login to Marketo, who's going to be able to see what we need to do to log in, get a support ticket opened, and get a dedicated IP address to get all of that traffic aligned. So I have a good path forward on this domain, but I might want to look and see if there's something as a higher priority first, given that even without doing that SPF alignment, I'm still going to satisfy the requirements for this domain. So let's go back and look at the rest of our domains, see if there's anything else that stands out as a bigger problem. So we were good with offers.sashimi bank. We have some follow-up, but we're generally good with PWM. Agari Bank is passing at a high percent. It looks like a pretty high percent SPF and DKIM. I might want to dig into this 89% number for SPF and see what's causing that. I could expand here. It looks like most of my traffic is coming out of my own Oregon data center and passing, but I do have some Google and Office 365 traffic I might want to come back and look at. But most of that's good too, so I'm going to keep going and looking to see if I have a bigger problem. Here we have HR Sashimi Bank problem where I'm not passing DMARC at all for this domain. So I have a 0% DMARC pass rate for this domain. So that's a problem, because if I'm not passing DMARC at all, then I can't be passing either SPF or DKIM with alignment. And sure enough, if I look over here, SPF aligned pass rate 0%, DKIM aligned pass rate is 0%. This is a problem. So none of this traffic from this domain that I'm looking at right here is going to satisfy the Google requirements. And when they decide to start implementing, rejecting this traffic, this mail won't get delivered to Google. So let's expand that, see what senders I'm using. Again, most of this traffic is coming out of a single sender, and I'm using Oracle Taleo to send that mail. For SPF, I do have an SPF record, so that's good. Let's see what's happening with the Taleo SPF traffic. We'll drill into that 0% pass rate and get a better picture of that traffic. So this looks like it is identifier misalignment from the Taleo servers. So that's a little bit of good news for this, because I know that it is passing SPF at least, but it's not aligned SPF. So I have an SPF record, all of these Taleo messages. Let's drill into this and see what the SPF domain is for my Taleo, bounces.taleo.net. So I'm going to have to again find out who my contact is in HR who owns the Taleo relationship, and probably go figure out how I get this mail from aligned with my Sashimi Bank domain so that I can pass alignment for SPF. So that would be my path for SPF for this domain. But let's try to dig in and see what the DKIM problem is. So again, I'm going to come over here here, 0% DKIM pass rate. This is actually a bigger problem because I am not doing DKIM at all. So my problem here is I have no DKIM signature on any of these messages. So with no DKIM signature, obviously it's not aligned because there is no DMARC domain to align with the from header. So I not only do I have to figure out how to align my SPF traffic, I have to get DKIM in place in the first place because again, if you recall, the requirements are I must have DKIM and SPF, and one of the two must align. So right now I don't have DKIM at all, and my SPF is not aligned. So I have a multiple problems that I need to fix for this domain to get them in compliance. So back to the domain traffic again. If I want to, similarly to the PWM, I want to drill in here and see if I've captured any notes on this domain. Fortunately, I have, so I can go contact this person in HR to work with them to reach out to our HR vendor for email and get that situation straightened out. And that's gonna be what I have to do there. So that's the general process that I would continue to follow for all of my domains to make sure that that I'm prioritizing the work correctly so that I solve the biggest problems first in that I have. Hopefully most of your domains are more like offers.sashimibank.com where there's no problems at all, or PWM where there might be a problem, but it's not a problem that's going to cause you an immediate deliverability issue, just something you probably want to straighten out going forward. But problems like HR.sashimibank, I'm going to want to fix that one right away. So this is going to be my top priority. If you do have a lot of domains, so this demo organization is pretty easy to look at because there's a small number of domains. I can see it all at a glance on one screen. In this domain diagnostics view, if you need to filter this view to narrow down your view, let's say you have 100 active domains and you can't look at them all at once, you can come up here to your options. You can add a filter. Hopefully you're making use of your custom domain groups to segment your domains into different groupings that are easier to work with. In this case, I have some HR domains. I have a set of bank group domains. So I could come in here and click on my HR domains and change my filter so that I'm only looking at my HR domain. So this could be really useful for you if you have a large number of domains here in the product to narrow down the views as you're searching through. And I also want to point out that these stats and data can be modified using the time range here as well. The default, we look at 2 weeks worth of data, but you can change that also. And if you're looking at some domains that are maybe more on the edge volume-wise, so you're not sure if they're bulk domains and you don't know how much of the traffic is going to Google versus other providers, you can click into this and use our email traffic view to get a daily breakdown of the volume. So looks like this domain daily is sending several thousand or tens of thousands of messages. So this is likely would be considered a bulk domain to Google as well. Most of the DMARC traffic for most domains, the majority of DMARC traffic is coming, reporting traffic is coming from Google. But if you want to verify that for this domain, you could do that here by looking at which ISP do I send email to. And when I click on that, it'll give me a breakdown of the DMARC data providers and where all this data is coming from. So easily over 50% of this traffic is coming from Google. So I can, again, look at this and say, yes, I definitely have a bulk email traffic domain going into Google here. So those are my main pointers on what to look for to identify your email authentication problems with domains and senders that are going to Google and Yahoo. And I used Google as my example here because, again, Google is the biggest provider of DMARC data, and Google also has published the most detailed guidelines. But you can pretty safely assume that if you comply with the Google guidelines, that your traffic is going to be good at Yahoo as well. So the Google and Yahoo have both said that they're doing this. I think it's probably safe to use the Google traffic as a guideline for when you're searching at these. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll see what else we can help you with. Thanks and have a good day.